Now, John Blaxland in Canberra. He's a senior fellow at the ANU's Strategic and Defence Studies Centre, a former Chief Staff Officer and for Joint Intelligence Operations in the Australian Defence Force. John Blaxland, welcome.
Thank you, John.
Can we read into the tea leaves of that word, supplement their commitment? Any idea what that could entail?
Well, it could mean additional advisors, but Tony Abbott, his mentor, John Howard, took a very careful and niche and calibrated approach to engagement in Iraq in the past, and it served him well. You know, cynics would say that he was really focused on the alliance. His critics would say he shouldn't have got us in there. But the bottom line was he knew about how to make a contribution that would limit the fallout domestically for Australia. And I think that's probably echoing in the minds of Tony Abbott's advisors at the moment, because the pressure is on for Australia to do more. But Australia's interests there are quite limited, and there are many other issues that Australia has to deal with, particularly in our neighbourhood, and we're seeing that with APEC and the ASEAN summits and the G20 as well.
John Blaxland, speaking of that calibrated approach of John Howard, you wrote last month that the support for the US alliance, Australia's support for the US alliance was compelling, but you basically also said that without a clear strategy or plan on how to govern the country once victory is declared, the situation involves significant risks and could degenerate further. Where do you think we are a month on from that comment?
Well, look, I think we are following an operational plan that is working pretty well up to a point. The problem is it's a plan with an incomplete strategy. It's a plan that sees the West, particularly the United States with Australia, the UK and others, contributing, and Canada, contributing to the Iraqis when the real big players, the ones who can make a difference in this equation, are Saudi Arabia and Iran, the Sunni heartland and the Shia heartland. And our involvement is really peripheral to that equation. And the problem is, and I've argued this before, that what we're dealing with is lopping off the head of a hydra. We're not actually dealing with the root causes, we're dealing with a symptom. Now, in terms of dealing with that symptom, we're doing pretty well. And of course, you know, the Super Hornets are doing a fantastic job. We're seeing our pilots exercising remarkable restraint and precision. The Special Forces guys who are about to go in there, we know that they're amongst the best in the world. They're going to provide excellent advice. They're probably going to have a significant morale bolstering effect on the Iraqi forces they're helping. They're probably going to provide communication support to ensure that they get intimate precision aerial support. But then what? The question is, where are we going with this? Have we got the other players participating effectively? And really, what difference is Australia's contribution going to make? And this is, I think, a big question that needs to be thought through more thoroughly.
John Blaxland, there's always the question at this point as well, not just of the mission and the mission creeping, but also the unintended consequences. What are the implications, particularly if Saudi Arabia, for instance, doesn't step up, but we're seeing the arming and the activation of Kurdish forces, we're seeing the Iraqi army again trying to be trained by the Australians, the Americans, the British and so on. Where could this lead?
Well, it's not at all clear where this is going to lead. What is likely to happen, though, is over the next 12, 24 months or so, we'll probably see the coalition push back the so-called Islamic State forces out of the territory that has been described as Iraq so far. But the problem is that the Iraqi army is not one that is at all welcome in the Sunni territories of northwest and western Iraq. This is territory that has always been uncomfortable for the Shia rump of the government that was under Maliki, now under Abadi, but essentially with an inclination towards Iran more than towards Saudi Arabia. And this is a part of the world where the Sunnis that are more inclined to the view of the Saudis and, as to a certain extent, Jordanians and Turks, do not see eye to eye, do not have an inclination to want to be governed again by Baghdad, by a Shiite-dominated government from Baghdad. We know that the track record when the Americans pulled out, it was ugly. There's no love lost, and there's certainly no trust remaining. And of course, there's no trust with the Iraqi government. And you've got to ask yourself, why would a Sunni militia member or somebody who we're trying to co-opt in the Sunni heartland trust our side ever again after we've walked away in the past? It's really a conundrum.
Dr. John Blaxland, thank you so much for joining us live there from Canberra tonight. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Kumi.